on.
All right. Sorry. But that part.
Okay. It's time to roll.
Yeah. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Esports Meta, your source for video game news and everything competitive gaming in North America. I'm your host, Billy Sims, here to talk about this scorching week full of hot topics and crazy things. And I'm going to need some help to do this, but before I introduce my help, let's introduce the topics at hand. Today, we're going to be talking about the Esports World Cup. We're in week 3. It's only been 2 weeks down. And we still have another 6 to go. We're talking about a marathon of games and competitive gaming, and that's our first topic today. And then second, and probably the biggest thorn in our sides, and maybe even your side, Apex Legends. There seems to be a lot circling here. Maybe it's circling the drain. Maybe it's getting ready for a comeback, but players are sort of torn, and there's a lot of controversy to talk about here, and that's what we'll be talking about in a little bit, so stick around. Let me bring in my guest host real quick to get us into these topics a bit further and break down everything that's happened today. So, Nicholas Layton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I was about to take a sip of my coffee right as you were about to introduce me.
I always have the best timing on that. So if I can monologue a second, if you want to sip on, stay hydrated, we could take a little hydration break.
No, you're good. I'm excited for the topics. I'm not
All
even
right,
gonna drink
perfect.
my coffee.
We don't need to energize with that caffeine. We're going to just do it ourselves, all right? With the topics at hand here, I know we pushed off half of the Apex story we're talking about today to this week. What about this you feel is most important to highlight as we sort of get into the episode today?
For Apex or just our episode in general?
Let's do Apex first, and then we'll do episode in general.
Honestly, like I could care less about the battle pass thing. I think it's overblown. But I think it's like anyway. But I think the actual controller issue. I think that's going to be the best part about the whole Apex issue. Is going to be the controller versus keyboard.
Right. One of the subtopics in Apex Day we look forward to and want you guys to stick around and even let us know your thoughts of. There's been some clear-cut data that controllers and aim assist has a huge impact on how you play Apex and the success of your rank in Apex Legends versus mouse and keyboard. So this PC master race might not be so master right now with Apex. And even if you're playing with controller on a PC, there's some controversy with that, but that we'll get into that. And I agree with you, Nick. That's going to be one of our big things to look forward to and talking about and diving deeper into what's really happening, especially the numbers. I am a bit concerned about the Battle Pass section, other subtopic for Apex Legends later today, because it seems like EA is just going to be EAing here. We just talked about recently, like I think a month ago, that EA announced how much it's made lifetime with Apex Legends, $3.4 billion with a B dollars over the lifetime, and how it broke down. And it seems that they're not quite satisfied with that. They feel like they can do a little bit more or change it a little bit. But of course, it's all under the banner of the trumpets of saying this is for the players and it's for a better player experience. But we'll see about that. Any sort of response? Do you feel like that's like even that little caveat, if it's for the players, is still not a big enough topic to talk about?
I mean, like, it's a battle pass, right? Like, you don't have to buy it. So, like, we'll get into this later, but, like, you don't have to buy it. I don't think it's, like, I don't like people complaining about them never spending money or actually being impacted by it. Like, it's the same thing with, like, the Faker skin. Like, just don't buy it. And if you really hate it that much, like, just don't play.
Okay, that's a interesting topic and point. of that, and we'll get into it further, deeper. If you guys agree, disagree, have your own point, stick around. Let us know on our socials. Let us know here in chat. We'll be paying attention, trying to interact with you guys. If you want to talk with us, we're up for the discussion. That's what this is all about. And of course, if you like what we're doing here, make sure you hit like, subscribe, all the internet things, because you get to see more of our pretty faces, or you just get to tell the algorithm, hey, you like what we're doing and you want this to be shown to more people, so they know what's up with video games. They know what's going on with that battle pass. But of course, with that call to action, we're going to pivot into our first topic. We're talking about Esports World Cup. We're in week 3 of the Esports World Cup. It's kind of gone fast but slow, because we have another 6 weeks left to go. And there's a lot here. It's kind of a slow, busy week, if I can say so myself. And I want to start us off with talking about the club championship. We have a little bit of an update for the club championship points. Shown right here, we have Team Falcons dominating with 2,600 club champion points. Like I said, it's only week 3, so there's only been 2 weeks of competition. Not every organization involved has a team in every competition, every single game, every single tournament. But we're seeing that Team Falcons kind of does so far. This could drastically change upcoming. But Nick, off this first 3 weeks of points, what are you thinking on that? What is it kind of planned out and laid out to you as we've watched this over the past 3 weeks?
The club stuff, I've actually loved it. I think that all of these clubs or orgs, whatever you want to call them, right? I think the fear of like missing out, or not, like, because at the end of the day, at the end of this whole entire tournament, the people who win each individual thing win the most trophies, right? The club championship, these people will be spoken about the most, right? Like, they will be in everybody's mouths for the most part. How much money they win and stuff like that. And a lot of these esports orgs, they're gonna have to like step up and buy more players. Like, that's the way I feel about it. Like, I feel like this just the org ranking and like showing like T1 is still second, right? With 1,000.
Yeah.
They've only played one game. They have one more game to go. Which is TFT, and I can't remember when TFT plays. But you know, like, these people are going to have like a fear of missing out in the tournament, or much like collegiate sports, if you're not in these tournaments, right? People won't look at you to go to your orgs or your colleges and stuff like that, right?
Right.
So like that's the way I'm seeing it. Like, they're going to have a fear of missing out. Like, they're going to miss some talented players. This whole thing has been wonderful for esports.
I like,
personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like this setup because you're not just fighting for bragging points. You're fighting for prize money. The club that gets the most points, or I think the top 3, get prize pool. They get cold hard cash. And then number 3, like you're saying, this is marketing. You know, you might be in a game that people don't watch, or they do watch, but it's only your fans. This kind of tournament exposes you to so many other fans, so many other games, and so many other players, that then your organization is now looked at differently. It's looked at, you know, maybe more positively, maybe as more like impact, like, wow, they were able to field these teams and compete at this level. You know, that's an organization I want to be about, which then in turn looks at retention rates and looks at like engagement and like possibly sales of merch and org stuff that way. So the 3/3.5 example there, that's more like intangible, but it for sure is something that's going to come out of this. I'm looking at Team Falcons and I'm like, damn, Team Falcons is running it right now. We're only 2-3 weeks in, but that's exactly the point. They're looking good for the points, they're looking good for the money, and then they're looking good for the bragging rights. So like they've got the marketing, they've got the impact, and there's a lot that can happen, of course, but already I think the system's working, just like you said.
Yeah, I mean, Team Falcons has 2 golds and a silver. Like, if we were talking about it, which is like pretty cool. Right? Like, they have, that's part of their bragging rights. Excuse me. But one of them's in Call of Duty, right? Like, also, like, the other games are, you know, it's Free Fire and the MLB game, right?
Right, but they still even got, like, did they get points for League? No. I think they're getting points for Overwatch coming up, just for competing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to be, let's see, they're in everything. like Team Falcons is in like everything. I like it'd be easier probably to go through and say like what tournament they're not a part of. And there's a few organizations like this, so it should be like Twisted Minds is another one that's in a lot a lot of these tournaments. So, you know, these orgs are going to be fighting for the bragging rights and everything, and it's going to be pretty sick. Let's see who wins.
Right. But to get those bragging rights, you have to score the points. You have to perform well. And we're going to be talking about how performances went in the last week and talk about how performances are going to look in the next week. And it's pretty much of a tight sort of conversation here. Let me just bring up the schedule because we're going to be talking about, first and foremost, let's talk about what happened in week 2. We saw the wrap up of what is it, Midseason Cup for a Free Fire, but then also, what is that? That's I can't remember
Mobile
the
Legends.
logos. That's Mobile Legends?
Mobile
Okay.
Legends.
I keep getting that and PUBG confused because they're hiding the actual logo of the game inside the logo of the tournament.
Because they're mobile games. It's the mobile ones that are hiding the thing that they're not mobile.
Well, even like
See?
we've talked about, yeah, Dota being Rydia Masters, that's a whole other conversation.
That one we just suck. All Dota tournaments are named something else. Like, by the way, that's just us sucking, and it's fine. We're able to make
All
mistakes. Right. We're not humans.
No, we are humans.
Oh, my bad.
Don't tell them our secret, man.
My bad.
All right,
Elon Musk is gonna kill me now.
So last week with Mobile Legends, we saw the finals happen, playing through. Just try to run through briefly the standings, and ultimately, Selnagora Red Giants coming out with a 1 million prize pool on this. Congratulations. Falcons having some representation here, paired up with AP Bren. And then Team Liquid Echo coming in 3rd place. Solid prize pools all around, $500,000 for 2nd place for Team Falcons, and then 200,000 for Team Echo. And if I head back over to the club championship, that, you know, $500,000 for this, for like, that it adds up. This club championship thing is going to be super solid to see and cool to see if it continues in other tournaments. That's probably the easiest way to say it. That I want to see Riot, I want to see Blizzard, Activision, I want to see all these things happen later on, possibly even a better situation for some sort of international play, etc. But anyway,
I mean, they're gonna have to, right? Like as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, and the rest of the world are concerned right now, like if you're not going to be part of these tournaments, you're probably not going to be part of the Esports Olympics either. Just throwing it out there because of what we have going on with the Esports Olympics.
Yeah. The one concern, I think, is that where is the money coming from? Obviously, like we're talking about Saudi Arabia, they're infinitely printing money, and like that's a whole controversy and discussion of like, etc. But like, is this money sustainable outside? Will a Blizzard put up cash to sustain a model like that incentivizes organizations, incentivizes teams and players and individuals to compete in their game for a longer term? We see games like Dota do it and perform from a fan community base aspect of it, and able to go and hit crazy numbers and crazy prize pools and make it a very competitive, sustainable game. But then you have other games, arguably like Overwatch, where Blizzard's taking 75% of a community donated skin sort of thing. Will that ultimately hamper the esports that are owned by these big companies to become these big sort of monuments of competition like Dota is? And it's hard to say. I think that's our biggest concern when it comes to that. So Nick, if you have any thoughts you want to add to that, or just contrary me on, let's go for it.
Like, I'll be honest, man. I'm interested in the esports. I don't care how the sausage is made right now, unless they're like committing genocide. Like that's it. Like,
I mean,
oil
you
money,
could argue,
whatever,
but anyway,
whatever,
bigger
like,
conversation.
Like they have money. We've always known they had money. This tournament already started. Like at this point, it's like you can't wash your hands. So like we're in it. Like that's it. But
that's an argument where it's like the players, they make their livelihood off of this. If you want people playing the game to that degree, if you want that long-term lifestyle sustainability for the game and the competition, the players need to afford rent. They need to afford to go to these competitions, and this is a competition that is doing that. So it's not hate the player, it's hate the game. And the games you can hate is like a Blizzard Activision, how they're taking 75% of a prize pool donated by the community. And you can say the same when it comes to these tournament organizers. Again, much bigger conversation, and people who are much more qualified can deeper dive into how and what. And it is a big red flag that we'd like to see change, but that's, of course, outside of our power, like Nick alluded to. But what's outside our power is we're going to continue talking about the points here with Mobile Legends here, the standings. We're going to go through what the playoff looked like, how that played out really briefly to see how, the Giants took first place. Team Liquid running through Falcon Esports. Falcon Esports having two teams, it seems like, on this one. Representation. So again, is that double club points because they placed in two different things? That's a good question to ask, I think.
I think like that happens, I think, when they're borrowing players.
Okay.
Because some of these organizations
from like different regions,
borrowing certain players. From like certain other teams and stuff like that that might not be participating in these events. Or that obviously aren't, because I don't think you could borrow like Red Giants can't borrow someone from Falcons for the finals, right? Like that'd be crazy.
Right. But I do think that maybe they're not making it to the competition, so that they're gonna like sponsor them basically, and part of sponsorship means they're gonna take on some team name here. I think we saw it with Toronto Defiant for Overwatch. Next week they're gonna be playing under a different name, so the organization has changed a little bit. But yeah, here's the bracket. It's pretty straightforward. It's surprising to see Falcon Esports have multiple representation here with different teams, but it seems that the lower bracket was somewhat competitive, and then it wasn't. Like, pretty straightforward on that. I don't think we really need to talk a lot more about Mobile Legends on it, but it's a lot, man. And congratulations to these teams, these players, these organizations pulling down from their group sections into the play stage and pulling out to first place and whatnot. Big ups on that, because this is, hell, if this doesn't happen again, that's some serious change in your pocket for sure for playing a mobile game.
Like, spoiler alert, this is happening for at least the next 12 years. I'm not even joking. Like I'm not even joking. Like I got documentation. This is happening for the next 12 years.
Why is that? Where's this coming from? What are you saying that for?
This is coming from the Olympics, the Olympic committees, okay, and the Saudi Arabian prince, the guy who set this whole thing up. All right, for the next 12 years, they will be doing esports events, and Olympic esports events are going to be held in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, all right, for the next 12 years. Like, this deal's already inked. This is done.
That's crazy, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
I know they were toying with F1 becoming a digital esport, Olympic esport, but then to push this in with the Olympics and sign a contract like that, that's crazy and incredible at the same time. So, like you said, I think
2025.
It's going to start in 2025, and we're probably going to see the Esports World Cup take off in a much bigger, in a much bigger way than we are just this year. I'm just flabbergasted. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's going to be it's a 12-year deal with the Olympic Committee. So we might not be seeing it might be different games every year, or something along those lines. Like they alternate off or something like that. So I don't know exactly if it's going to be every 4 years. We don't have enough information, but the next one is in the first one ever for the Olympic Games. Olympic Esports Games will be held in 2025 in Saudi Arabia, probably in this exact location. All right, because it's already now set up for this whole entire thing. They've proved that they can do it and get people to come. So this is exactly where it's going to be. And so this is what I was saying before with fear of missing out for these organizations. They're going to have to start fielding more players that are going to be sending them off to Saudi Arabia to play in the Olympics or the Esports World Cups, right?
Right. The money's there, man. So like the incentivization is there. These organizations have a lot at risk to go and to not go. So absolutely, and definitely to your point, where like the ink is already dried. We're seeing how it's playing out in this way with the contracts. So like regardless if you like it or don't like it, there has been people at play who've inked a deal that it's going to happen when we're talking like you said the next 12 years. That's a lot. That is big. That is huge. And like I don't know what my total thoughts are yet because it's a lot, man.
No, I mean it just happened, and they partnered with certain organizations. Like we'll have to do a deep dive onto that, and it's not going to be like organizations for just like teams. I mean like developers,
Like affiliate.
Like yeah, no,
okay.
no. I think like I'm almost positive that like Riot and like somebody and two other companies at least like were in the talks with this to get this going.
Okay. I thought for a second you meant like affiliate marketing kind of stuff. Like we're going to see Butterfingers or like Pringles or Cheez-Its ads on the side of stuff.
No, man, like the craziest thing we have right now is the fact that the Crown Prince and Prime Minister is the one who's like making all this happen. Like all it takes is like one person right now, right?
With enough money and enough influence, because that dude is just printing oil money and just trying to like sports wash any sort of influence.
Sure, I mean like, but you know, there has to be somebody there who's passionate about this whole thing, right? To be able to like convince organizations like early, unless like the dump truck of money just like showed up, like you're gonna have to convince some of these people to show up. But it's gonna be cool. Like it's gonna be great for the next 12 years.
And like speaking of showing up, we can see how those dump trucks of money can really be a big influence a little bit later when we're talking about the Apex Battle Pass changes, as well as the the overall feel of play when it's controller versus mouse and keyboard. We'll see that stuff. But like we're talking about the teams right now in the Esports World Cup competing for that dump truck of money, and we're gonna move into our next game, which I believe is Free Fire. They had their grand finals this week, and it was another straightforward sort of point. Team Falcons taking the number one spot. We're seeing those club championship points rack up for Team Falcons. Evo's Divine, Netshore Miners, congratulations, your top three. And here's the prize pool and the championship points. We're looking at Team Falcons with another 300 grand. So that's 800 grand between those two games that we've just saw basically, which is a pretty awesome payday. And I wonder how the splits between the individual rosters go, or if it's all just going straight to the organization's face. I imagine there's a lot of costs in sending these guys there and training, etc. But like, congratulations on first place here in Free Fire. Congratulations to Evo's Divine for second place and Netshore Minus for third place. You're still walking away with a lot of money. So big congrats for another mobile game win on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm going to switch us into our third game this week, which is Dota. And we're just going to take a look at the schedule and the current, what's it called, expectations where we're at with the games. All right, so switching us into that, here's what the current standings are for this round of stuff. We're seeing Tundra taking a 2 over OG, Gammon. I always see that, but I can never say it properly. I know it's Gammon or Gammon. Gladiators taking it over Entity. Falcons also representing itself here. 2-1 over XG. Team Liquid over Team Spirit. And then we've got some more games coming up later this week. Check it out if you're interested. You're big Dota fans, mobile fans. If you're a League fan, check this out because this is definitely League supercharged. And you might find the
disrespect.
The secret sauce in that, man. You might find the secret sauce
I encourage
happening.
all League players to play Dota at least once for like a week or two, so that they can appreciate the game itself and what that game has to offer versus like League,
and appreciate why people like it. This prize pool, we're talking about $5 million. Actually, that's a good pivot point. If I bring us over into the overall standings, there's a total like $5 million prize pool for Dota. So, if you're playing League and you're playing for $1 million. 5 million sounds a lot better, of course, but like maybe why it's there, why people like it, why the tournament organizers or the game developer is able to do these things. And it could just be numbers for sure, but we're always encouraging people to check this out. And as you can see, first place taking $1.5 million coming up. And I believe at the end of this week, we're going to be seeing the finals. We'll double check that in a moment, but stick around for that. But even second and third place, you're talking 800,000, 600,000. Like that's more than like a lot of the prize pools combined in other games are.
I mean, most the overall earnings for esports players in general, in case like no one knew this besides like me, because I look at numbers too much. The top people out of like the 100. Let's just do this real quick.
100 what? Like top earners in esports?
Yes, 71 of them are Dota 2 players. Just to throw that out there. Like, yeah, like, and that includes like fakers on that list. There's some people that you would like, some games on there that you wouldn't think of, but Counter-Strike, I think Fortnite's on there twice. Like Counter-Strike and Dota are the most lucrative as far as like the top 100 players are concerned.
I wonder how much that, yeah, because Dota's a team sport, and I wonder how much that also impacts it. Because you talk about something like Fortnite, you do have a lot of solo competitions. You might have some duo competitions, but like you're talking about like what 4 or 5 players for Dota per team, just like League. So you might have a
right.
You might split it more, or you might just have a bigger prize pool, and those people who win. That is definitely for sure. That is crazy. 71 spots of the top 100 earners make, like that's just taken by Dota, like make that much money. That's, man, mind blowing. So yeah, if you're just a League of Legends player, if you're just an Overwatch player, if you're just playing Hello Kitty Happy Island 2, go check out these games. Go check out Dota
because 2 and Rocket League make the most money, bro. Like,
yeah, man.
Crazy. It
makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. And, we're going to be seeing how Dota plays out a little bit coming up. They're still in the playoffs. They still have a lot more to go. Let's actually take a look at the rest of this schedule here for week 2 leading into week 3. And we see how, we closed up Free Fire. We closed up Mobile Legends. We're seeing Dota make some headway, but Dota I think is running through this entire tournament, it feels like. So that brings us into week 3, and that's when we're going to see Counter-Strike start taking. You mentioned Counter-Strike already as far as being some of the top earners. Definitely not as much as Dota is, but they have some big representation. There's a lot of audience for it. There's a lot of game here for it, especially like an old game. In theory, like Counter-Strike can be, but we're seeing Counter-Strike start this week and kind of go, and we're also then seeing PUBG Mobile also start this week. Through Friday and Saturday.
Not PUBG, but Counter-Strike ends this week.
Right. It's a pretty quick tournament for Counter-Strike. Only 4 days compared to Dota being already 30 days.
Yeah, I mean the game matches are drastically different, right? For Dota, there's the match length is quite a bit longer than Counter-Strike 2.
Absolutely. But I think they have more stages as well for Dota. So you do have a loser's bracket in that, whereas a lot of other tournaments are only single elimination. And I think that definitely plays a big part of all this. But here you go. Here's what we're expecting for week 2. Let's real quickly take a look at what CS2 will be doing. We got FaZe Clan, FlyQuest, Moose, Sashi, G2, the Mongols, Team Vitality, M80, Nadus, Furia, Team Spirit, Mibber, Virtus, Complexity, all competing for spots for prize money here in CSGO 2 or CS2. That's all starting tomorrow, the 17th. So if you're watching this beforehand, go check this out tomorrow, CSGO, the 17th. Otherwise, if you're watching after the fact, check out the scores. There's a lot happening here. It'll kick off with these matchups, and I don't follow this too much. I do like the simplicity of CSGO, CS2. Sorry. My hat, I used to play CSGO, so I'm always deferring back to that. But I think it's going to be a pretty straightforward tournament, but one with a lot of depth very easy, simple to understand and just kind of like get through. But then the strategy these teams are going to implement at the highest stage here is going to be a big, big deal.
Yeah, the nuances are what make CS2, right? Rather than like the simplicity of it, because like you're not really strafing while shooting and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but it's definitely,
It's a much different sort of game for sure. You're not,
yeah.
the team strategy is a lot more precise, a lot more precision, a lot more like one mistake really screws you kind of things.
Yeah, it's definitely like without it, as weird as this sounds, it is very much a push and like pull and tug. We'll say, right? Like each one of the teams like literally has to do something to try to get the enemy team to do something, and it's constantly trying to bounce off of each other, even though it looks like they're just moving through the map and they're just staring at a corner. You know what I mean? Like he's just staring there. He's camping. Like, no, he's definitely waiting because it's something else that happened. But
Right,
those are
like
the nuances, right?
the old adage, ducks on a pond. They look calm, but there's so much happening underneath the surface. All right. So let's move into the last part here as we recap or preview what to expect for Esports World Cup. And this one, we alluded to it last week, and we're going to bring it to you right now. This trophy. It is crazy. The Esports World Cup individual trophies, it's just a crazy thing. And I've got the promo video for this, so I'm going to bring that up real quick. Make sure that we're in it. All right, there we go. Here's the video. And then here we go. Let's play.
The Esports World Cup is a unique tournament and will have a very unique trophy system, consisting of keys, game trophies, the Club Championship trophy, and the totem. Introducing the key. This symbolizes a participant's right to compete in Riyadh. Each team or player will receive a personalized key consisting of the inner key and the outer frame. Winning a competition earns you a game trophy. A champion's key will be inserted inside. The frame will be placed into the totem. A physical block on display in Riyadh, serving as a progress bar of the Esports World Cup. The totem will remain in Riyadh as a chronicle of the Esports World Cup history. Those who get eliminated throughout the competition must give up their keys and see them crushed. Their broken keys will be tossed into the totem and encased in resin, symbolizing those that tried to win but fell short. However, as an additional privilege for winning, each game's champion gets to select 3 opponents' keys to be encased in the base of their trophy as an additional, more personal prize. Losers will go home with their keys replaced with a token that marks where they ended their journey. Witness history unfold at the Esports World Cup.
Dude. How personal and ridiculous. It's complicated, but at the same time, it's savage. You might be muted, dude. I can't hear you.
I said this is actually ridiculous. This might be like banned in schools for like zero tolerance policies on bullying, because this can get out of hand real quick. Real quick. Like the trash talk can get crazy, and then just saying like, I'm going to go home with your name smushed up into my trophy, bro. Like it's pretty wild, honestly. I can't wait to see how the fighting community reacts to it.
Right. So just to recap briefly, everybody who participates gets a 2-part trophy. One part is your key that you'll enter into other things, and the other part is just like a take-home piece. The key, when you compete, if you lose, you have to give it up. That key, if you win, you get to keep it, and then you get to place it in a bigger trophy. So the further you go, the bigger thing you get to take home. But at the same time, if you lose at any point, that little key gets added to the winner's trophy, gets added to a monument saying you competed, but then lost. So, man, like it does feel ridiculous and pretty complicated overall. But dude, I kind of wish everybody kind of did that, especially when it comes to like a fighting game situation. Like, here's the blood of my enemies in my trophy, basically.
Yeah, you get to be really, really let's say you can be super mean about like somebody that you had a rivalry with this whole time, and if you do manage to beat him in the tournament, it's just like rivalry done. Like organizations are going to be able to do this. This is what I was saying before, man. If this is going to last for like 12 years, like you never know if there's going to be like one person who comes out and wants to participate. He's really good at PUBG and he's really good at team fight tactics or something like that. We might have like king of game situations on this where you might need to buy up somebody who's good at like 3 games or like relatively good at like 3 games to see like what happens. I don't know. I'm jazzed.
It's definitely a really cool system. It is a little bit complicated, but I think I explained it clearly. Hopefully, it'll be cool to see what they're able to do. Hopefully they can do more with this later. If this is going to be a continued thing, like you said, if they bought on to the Olympics, I think the Olympics aren't going to necessarily want something as put down, but they are all about their emblems and trophies and the podium placements for sure. So this is definitely a great thing for just like us to shit talk about people like, or, it's a great thing for that competitive spirit. And it adds a lot more pizzazz for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, this is, it gets people more invested and who knows, let's see some gambling on the Esports World Cup. And then we know we made it, right? Like, is that like the only thing that we're missing?
It's probably already happening, man. It's probably already happening. Those sponsorships, we got to see them come on through, guys. If you're already sports betting, you're running it or operating it, let us know, Daddy could use a new computer.
These orgs that have the sponsorships and stuff like that, like some of them are sponsored by like Nike, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's going to be a very interesting thing to see, like, what sponsorships certain teams get from making it, higher up in the World Cup, in the Esports World Cup, right? Or in the Olympics, right? Because these teams are going to go to the Olympics. Not all of them, right? But, like, certain players, I don't know how it's going to work. Are the orgs going to go? Are the players going to go? Like, what's going to happen? Are we going to have Team America? Like, you never know when it comes to
is
this
it
stuff,
organization or if it's national? That would be an interesting thing to kind of like see how it plays out. On top of which, when it comes to something like that, like we kind of already see how like sports games, especially, you've got the teams start a esport team for the digital product, the digital tournaments, the esport, etc. Like the 2K series has basketball teams fielding digital basketball teams, players of an esport organization representing the bigger NBA team. And you're going to start seeing that. Will we start seeing that with other stuff, with Nike, etc.? Like how much then control does a Blizzard have in that, if for their games, or a Riot has in that, etc.? Like, are we going to start seeing this sort of scale of opposition where there's enough power? It's all very interesting, all very dramatic, and of course I'm looking forward to breaking it all down and talking about it here with you, Nick, and with our audience or anybody sticking around. So if you got any thoughts, any insights on that, let us know. Hit us up on our socials, hit us up here on YouTube or Twitch. Of course, just follow us anywhere to follow the conversation as we learn more and see how this develops. That Olympic competition is going to be sick, Nick. It's going to be so good. But
I think last thing that like for me to say on this would be I think the Esports World Cup and now this combo with the Olympics and stuff is like wrestling control away from these game developers, right? Like it's not so much like Riot or anybody like that. Like Riot's not like the best, right? But mostly it's like people like Blizzard or something along those lines, right? Where like they decide that they're going to disqualify somebody or take away their prize money because they said something about like something about China or something like that when they had the opportunity because they have the platform of being a winning pro or something like that, right? And have it like turned around. Like now the money's all in Saudi Arabia. So if your game, if you want to like do something like that, like your game might not be allowed to be played in like the Olympics or the Esports World Cup if you try to get froggy like that. So
which could be a huge hit for that companies' marketing or playability across the global scene. Like, oh, you're going to limit it only to North America? Great, congratulations. Well, here's the other continents and countries that are playing this game and making so much more money playing other games because you chose, to this. And just real quickly, I know we've seen Activision Blizzard do this with StarCraft about 15 years ago when they were fighting and clashing for power of broadcasting rights and tournament rights in South Korea. So it'll be interesting, to your point, how that's going to develop in Saudi Arabia with the Olympics, etc. Are the developers going to just lock it out and just not have a representation of their game, losing out possibly thousands or millions of dollars for marketing or playability? Or are these organizations just going to go, hey, we've got the power, we have the money, players want to play here, and the developers are just like, okay, yeah, I guess, because it makes more sense. I'm sure everybody's going to want to play fair, but yeah.
I just thought of something pretty interesting, right? So if we have the Esports World Cup with all these games, right? Looking at the games, not many of these. I don't know off the top of my head how many organizations are there from each region, but it's something to think about. I just popped in my head because Fortnite's not in China,
right?
Right? Fortnite's not played in China. Any games that are pretty egregious on loot crates or gambling or something like that against kids are not played in China, right? And how much is that going to impact Olympics, the Olympics of esports? If China's just not coming because those games they just consider a negative for their communities, for their kids. Now we don't want to create little gamblers, so And that was the thing. Overwatch had to change some of the loot boxes, and had to come up with the rates and studd like that due to China and Chinese law to stay in there.
Which is not an unusual thing. Which is very much not an unusual thing across. But you adhere to the one law the way you want to be. But then speaking of Overwatch, you're speaking of Blizzard. You're speaking of Activision King Blizzard. WoW was kicked out of China recently, and I think they're just now making a return after a year and a half. And it wasn't because of the allegations or the controversy legally that they had. It was because of what you're saying. I don't think it was loot boxes, but I think it was just about a power dynamic, and that the negotiations went real sour real fast. So for the last year or 2 years, WoW hasn't had that representation or played in China. And how is that going to carry over to something like the Olympics here? It's a great question, and I think only time's going to tell.
Yeah, no, we're going to keep an eye on it, but it's something to just think about, right?
Big time. Big time. But yeah, it's exciting to see, but we got to move on. We're going to move into our next topic, and oh boy, we've been teasing this one for a bit. It's been a lot to talk about, and it's Apex, just straightforward. There's 2 subsections we're going to go into, and we're going to break it down one at a time. Apex has had some problems recently. Players are not happy. And I'm going to start with basically saying this. Apex Legends has decided to up the prices for battle passes in a specific way. We'll have that breakdown in just a second, but players are now filing negative reviews on Steam, up to 10,000 so far as of 3 hours ago, where they're showing their dismay for these new changes. So we're talking about something that is pretty big deal. It has a big shifting thing with Apex. And like we said recently, we talked about how much Apex has made lifetime, $3 billion. So we're going to be looking at this Battle Pass change right now. But before I start into that, Nick, right off of this Battle Pass, what are your thoughts? I know you explained a little bit before that the Battle Pass, if you don't want it, don't buy it, right? Do you want to go into that further? Do you want it to come up naturally in the conversation come up here? Is there anything you want to lead off before we dive into breaking down what's going on with this Battle Pass and player sentiments and slash action against that feeling that's they're feeling right now?
I don't understand players when they moan like this, to be honest, right? I understand the Battle Pass, I don't know, did you want to spend money on the Battle Pass? Is that the argument that they're making? I want to buy the Battle Pass. How dare you separate it, and now I need to buy it twice? Like, aren't you doubly as happy then if you wanted to spend money on the battle pass? Like, what's your complaint? Like, seriously, like what's the complaint? I get the same amount, but I got to pay double the amount now. But I shouldn't really have to spend money in the. I don't get it. Just don't buy it or don't play the game. Like, it's so easy.
I think that I understand your point with it for sure, but I think that's a little reductive to this sort of situation. So let's break down here. I would say I disagree with you, and I'll bring up my points. So let's break down what's actually happening with the Battle Pass, and we'll continue discussing that aspect, what your point, why it's a good point, why it's a bad point, and then I can throw in my 2 cents and my opinions on around it too. So here we go. Apex Legends website here, the Battle Pass updates, everything you need to know about the upcoming Battle Pass. So the TLDR, as perfectly here, they're evolving the Apex Battle Pass to improve your experience and progression goals. So first and foremost, they're definitely soft languaging it. And like, this is probably where I always start chiming in. This is them just kind of like judo people into like, hey, this, the Battle Pass is now available per split. It used to be once per season. Now they're splitting it into, you can buy 2. Players can earn the first premium Battle Pass during the first 2 weeks, and then they earn the other one on the second 2 weeks. Levels to obtain the final cosmetic stuff have been reduced. It was 110, and now they're reducing it down to 60 per half. So not even like a true half, but something. And the rewards from the Battle Pass that frequently weren't being used have been removed. So in this, I can kind of understand where, like you're saying, is like, they're getting more goodies, but they're paying more money. So like that is a little bit of a bonus, but it's also kind of not. Like moving into the free track, so you're not spending any money. They refreshed the what is it? Rewards have been refreshed with the following available across each of these split. So you're getting 200 coins, 7 packs, and 1 complete epic set from just playing for free, which still pretty good. Premium track rewards refresh the following to be 2400 CM, 1300 AC. So the digital currencies, the different digital currencies, 10 exotic shards, various packs, 1 reactive legend. And like, I can go in through a list of this, but the kind of thing that's crazy to me with this, it's all digital, right? Like it's all just fake imaginary things. They do not exist. But like, this is what they're throwing in to justify that price point, and now that upped price point or that split price point. So Nick, chime in. What do you see? What are you laughing at?
Bro, because it sounds like nonsense. Like, not to be like the old dude in the room, right? But like, you get 200 at AC coins, you get 7 packs, you get 1 complete epic set. It sounds like horseshit, bro. Like, everybody knows that battle passes are horseshit, right? Like, so like, this is what I don't get. Like, any adult who's got bills, battle passes they know are horseshit. Like, they shouldn't have to pay. Like, they're probably not paying for it, right? And are these like just young kids with fear of missing out on like a colorful skin?
No way.
Like, all right? So normally it was how much money? $10 and $20.
So what?
And then
Yeah,
it just got split again.
Real quick. The final TLDR at the bottom here. The cost, it's $9 or $10 for the premium, and then $20 for the premium plus each split. It used to be coins, the digital currency, but now they're changing it to direct money. So that's a thing. And like, to talk on that point real quick, you're right. It sounds like gibberish. It sounds like garbage. It sounds just like made up fluff that people take seriously because it's been emotionally invested into the seriousness of it. And that is a big strategy with freemium stuff or with casino sort of stuff. You disassociate the real value from the perceived value. So you don't spend real money, you spend Apex coins or like Predator credits, right? And that disassociates what that actually means in your head so that you don't realize, oh, I just spent $100. I spent 1,000 Predator coins. And that's where it's like a little mixed feeling here, because the psychology of the imaginary currencies definitely mess with your head. And we're seeing 2,800 previously or 950 previously. That was by design to do that, at least separation. So like, in a positive note, they're making it more directly money, but then on a negative note, they're making it cost more money. And like, they are still going to exploit that FOMO that you're talking about. And like, a 15-year-old kid might not have that $20 every 2 weeks, 3 weeks to spend on this game, but that 30, 40-year-old dude playing casually between dad duties might, and like enjoy it and like be able to justify it. So that point specifically I find a little mixed, but otherwise I think I it's all gibberish and garbage, but it is, you're paying more for less almost in that gibberish and garbage now.
Like, are you? Right? Like, counter argument would be like, now you're paying exactly what the digital crap is worth, but you didn't know that before. Sorry. Like, I don't get it, bro. Like, well, how about playing a free game, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have a subscription, right? So you can play World of Warcraft for $15 a month, and they'll still do shit like this to you, okay? Yeah. But you get a free game, you can play it. There's no buy to win, like pay to win aspect of this game, right? And like, what are the complaints? I like, this is what I'm saying. I don't get it. Being like, do you want to spend money? Are you pissed off that you're? Like, make a good point. Make a good point besides like saying I don't want to pay an extra amount of money. Like,
the goodest point is that my $10 doesn't go as far as it used to.
Grass inflation. Really, get fucked. Everybody else already had that happen to them. Like, I don't get it. Don't buy it, dude. Like, I got battle passes in League of Legends. I got battle passes in every game I play. Okay, every game I play has a battle pass. Am I buying all of them? Am I moaning about it? No. How many games do these players play that have battle passes? Are they buying all of them? Are they only buying ones that they think are worth it? And give me a valid argument besides like, it costs too much money for me.
I have, because at the same time, my $10 doesn't go as far as I don't get as much as the $10. Of course, I'm going to be mad about that. But the other part of it is like, you're right. If you don't like it, don't spend the money. That's the better action to take than complaining about it on Steam. I guess complaining about it on Steam does hurt and impact the developers, because we've seen that happen recently with Helldivers. Like, they have not been able to bounce back from that massive campaign that was organized and like pushed through for it. But that could be also a few other points. So you're hurting them with the dollars, but like, that's exactly it. Like, if you don't like it, move on, kind of thing. But the only bigger asterisk I would say with the point of it is like, my $10 doesn't go as far as I would. But the other thing is that I'm sure the marketing team from Apex is going to be trying to sell me even harder. Like, we're seeing how the wording on this one is trying to like judo a little bit. Like, we're evolving your experience. It's like, yeah, technically, but you're also making me spend more. And you're right. Nobody's making anybody do anything. But I'm sure there's going to be that FOMO, that marketing thing. And of course, it's almost like cable. We're old enough to know like how much money it costs for to watch cable TV. If you want to watch one channel, you got to buy 200 channels. You got to spend $300 just to watch that one thing you want to. Like, this kind of feels like it might be going that way. It's not super hard evidence. It is broken down into 2 half packs, so you have a little bit. But in that way, I don't know, man. You're getting less for paying more.
Like, you want every skin? Every skin that comes out in the battle pass? Like this is the confusion that I have, man, is that like, are they literally saying I want every fucking thing that this company tries to jam down my throat? Like, it's
a likely yes, man. And we've talked off camera. We've talked off camera about WoW. What kind of game is it? It's become more games than just a singular one, or what it used to be. And like, what a lot of the developers are acknowledging now is that collecting is one of the biggest ways people play that game. And of course, WoW is different than Apex, but of course you're going to have those same kind of people in an Apex game wanting to get everything, of course. That's where it's like a little bit deceptive. And I agree with you. If you don't like the price point, don't buy it.
No, I mean,
move on. But yeah, like there is incentivization to collect stuff. No one's saying it outright, but there is definitely psychology in this to like push it.
Just like counterpoints, like, did you think Apex was going to last forever? Right? Did you think that like the terrible business practices that you, being a person who pays for a battle pass, has cultivated, right, along with all of your buddies who pay for battle passes, like, did you think the price wasn't going to go up? Did you think it was going to stay the same? That your value was going to be there the whole time? Like, I don't.
There's
like
a degree
for doing it, right? But like,
Yeah.
you have to use your brain when saying the counter argument be like, what do you get out of Apex for free?
So
right?
Nick,
And
Nick,
like, are
real
you
quick.
cool with it?
Right. Yeah. You get stuff for free and like the go back to not paying, but to ask or expect that they're going to charge more for the same thing or less. Like that's, I don't know. I don't think that's really fair because generally speaking, of course you're not. Of course, we've shown how it is a positive game as far as, the experience generally. It is a sustainable game. They've made $3 billion on this game. There's no signs of it slowing down. There's no real signs of it losing money and like maintaining, and like for them to then hard pivot this, it feels like a Bobby Kotick sort of decision from Activision Blizzard kind of moment, and that they're trying to mask that. And like that's, I'm sure, where people are upset. But at the end of the day, you're right. If you don't like it, stop paying for it. Stop playing the game. Give them the bad review on Steam and move on. That's kind of it. Like, just hit them where it hurts in their wallet and then move on.
I mean, they're not going to stop playing.
You're right.
Like I said this like off stream, right? Like none of these players are not like they're all engaging with the game still. Like the game has 18 million active players per month, right? Steam was negatively impacted by nothing for the most part. At most, it has little over 500,000 players playing on it. Like, you need to not play the game that you get for free, that you're still going to play the game anyway, because your gameplay experience has not been negatively impacted by this nonsense. And it's been the same price for the Battle Pass for how many years? How many years has Apex been out, right? Like,
You're
and I'm not making the argument, oh, they should raise the price. I'm making the argument, if you don't like these business practices, you should never buy a Battle Pass. That's it. Buy the coins, pay for the skin, and never buy the Battle Pass, because you're the reason why they think they can double the Battle Pass money.
And get away with it, yeah.
And get away with it. Like, it's not me doing it. Like, I'm not the reason why this shit happened. Like, which is why I'm a firm stance of, I'm not paying for the Battle Pass regardless of what game it is. It doesn't add anything to my gameplay experience. And matter of fact, it probably has a negative impact on my gaming experience, because if I buy it and I don't get every single thing out of it, I will actually be more upset than if I didn't buy it at all.
Much more reasonable sort of like nuance that you're explaining there. I agree with that. And there is the sketchy part where you're going to be pushed or incentivized or like just FOMO'd into like wanting to, etc. And that's what the company is going to company and do. Capitalism's going to capitalism. I have a quick question though, and I think it's true. The new champions are basically not hidden, but they're in the battle passes, aren't they?
That could be a valid complaint. Not the complaint of, wah, like the money. Like, wah, your character that has power creep in it that might actually severely impact your gameplay because you can't play the new character, but everybody else can if he's super powerful. That would be a very good argument against the Battle Pass. But there's no argument against the Battle Pass existing. The argument is how much the Battle Pass cost. That is a stupid, stupid, stupid argument. There's never, that's never a good argument.
That's too harsh of a thing. It's too harsh on that.
Really not. It's really not.
Nick, we both worked at a certain restaurant, and we both knew one of the strategies to appease people was to give them a free piece of cake, right? Do you remember how much we sold that piece of cake for and how much it actually was on the back end?
$10. $10, and it cost like 48 cents.
Right, exactly.
Like,
we're not even talking about a physical product with the Apex stuff. We're talking about digital products. We're talking about ones and zeros. So first and foremost, do you ever even own these things? That becomes a big valid conversation, more reason to not buy the Battle Pass, etc. But the way then them selling it like that, that's, I don't want to say it's unethical. It's capitalism, and that capitalism could be unethical, and like. That leads into your point. You shouldn't not expect it. But at the same time, it feels bad, man. I like this thing. I want to play this thing. I do want to spend money on this thing, but now you're doing a thing where I can't do what I want. You can still do it. It's just going to cost you more. You're right. It still feels bad, and it still feels bad when you think about it. It's like, yeah, that piece of cake that sold for 10, 12 bucks, we only paid 48 cents for, so we made people happy. What do you think it costs per dollar per employee for this digital stuff? It makes it crazier. But, that's where the heated conversation is. I think it's much more nuanced. And I think we do have to give some grace to these players because they're just caught up on it, right? Maybe they don't see it. Maybe they do have valid points with the battle pass, having power creep characters hidden behind it. The currencies also, if you get more currency from the battle pass, allows you to buy more characters quickly, which allows you to play the game differently or better or higher. That becomes a balance issue. That becomes a power creep issue. But that's definitely more of the valid nuanced points of this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it feels bad, man, and that's still valid. Stop buying the battle pass, but it still feels valid.
It can feel valid. It's a valid thing to say, I don't like it. It's totally acceptable, right? I could be right there with you complaining about a battle pass if the game was trash. Like, it's what I say about WoW. Like, WoW's a good game regardless of how much people want to complain about it. Apex is a good game if your complaints are the battle pass, the battle pass, the battle pass.
Cough, cough, Star Wars bounty hunters. Cough, cough, cough.
That's not a good game, though. It doesn't even play good.
No, exactly. It's a bad game.
But
it's a bad game, and it's a money grab. It feels like you're hitting IP. It's meme and monies, like we've been saying, man.
Yeah.
One could argue this is leaning into that money thing in a system that was already profitable, basically.
All these companies have investors or companies that bought into them. Like, let's just say it again. Overlord Tencent, right? Like, in every single one of the, who do you think's doing? Who do you think?
There's a Bobby Kotick behind the scenes for sure.
And all your favorite games that people are playing right now, Tencent has their hand in it. Like, I'm just letting, we can go through the games, but every game that you play that you consider good, Tencent's, not behind it, but they're in it. So that includes, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, Riot, League of Legends. It doesn't matter what game you're playing. They're there in their pockets and in their ear, man. So, I don't know.
And even if you're competing with, a Tencent in that way, even if you're not competing with them, they're everywhere, you're still competing with the shareholders. And that's regardless if it's Microsoft, if it's Blizzard, Activision, King, Sony, we saw what happened with Sony and the Helldiver situation and distribution issue on 3-4 months into the game. It comes down to the shareholders and stock prices. So everyone needs to pray to the stockholder gods, the shareholders, to get this battle pass reduced because you're right. I don't think it validates it as a reason why you do it and oh yeah, duh, it's a no-brainer, it's gonna happen. I think it just kind of proves more into your point. Don't buy the battle pass. If you're not happy with it, you don't think it's valued, you think it's too much, don't buy it.
Play another game.
It still doesn't feel good. It still doesn't feel good, but you're right.
Sure, man. But anytime that these are all multiplayer games, right? And people are, I don't want to say people are addicted to playing multiplayer games, but usually multiplayer games survive longer in the trends than games like Helldivers. That's a co-op game for the most part, right? People go back to just playing competitive games.
But that was also the spark because it had lasted that long so naturally, organically, that it was still picking up steam until all the Steam negative review bombs, basically, and really tracking that from the CEO of the developer and Sony, basically. So you're right, but that's what made Helldivers even more special.
Yeah, it's again, it's a solid game, but I don't know. I think people probably need to just take a breath off the game that they're playing. Whenever you get mad about whatever game if you're getting mad about the company itself and not the game, maybe just take a step back and play something else.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. that's the thing that people have a hard time with, because you get into a habit of playing this game that you like and you don't really want to try to play something else. So I understand that. I agree with that. It's so hard to find games you like, games you can play for years on end. Those people who play WoW every day still, they've been doing it for like 20 years. That's insane to me. Like, but I'm not going to yuck their yum, and they're going to still do it. And of course, I'd understand to a degree if they don't like the thing, they're going to complain about it. But if you actually don't like the thing, then like you said, move on, try something else, open your horizons. I think we saw that a lot, in fairness, with WoW players over the last year and a half, where it's like, we're done taking this bullshit. We're going to move on to other pastures.
They go to Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
They come back to WoW. Congratulations. Like,
hey man,
anyway.
but you know, in that fairness too, there has been a lot of they did enough of a dent where the developers were listening to them directly, and they made some pretty player favorable changes. Different conversation, but here
it's the same conversation. They want to play another game.
Yeah,
like. That's it.
Yeah.
You being logged on to whatever service that you're complaining about is the reason why they don't care what you're saying. Complete honesty. Like, the fact that you're still interacting with them is the reason why they do not care. Like, at all. Like, you're still playing.
Yeah.
So,
even if it's negative playing, it's still playing. And I agree with that. Like, it is. But you know, different strokes, because it's a lot of little bullet points that have happened, and like that's kind of where we're at here, looking at the actual battle pass, how it's changing. They're like, it's pretty straightforward. Here's a visual representation. It's 60 levels, 200 coins, and 7 packs, versus the same, but that was for free the entire season. So you're probably even getting a better situation if you're just playing free of the 2 half. But from what it looks like is that the free is not being split into 2. Am I reading this correct, Nick? Do you see the same thing that I'm seeing, that the free path is for the entire duration of the both half seasons?
I didn't notice that before. No, it says 60
Well,
levels.
no, it does.
Every half
sorry.
system is, 60.
It says every half. Okay. I just didn't see it like duplicated like the other ones are but okay, it makes sense. Yeah. So in that way,
you the same ones.
They are incentivizing you a little bit more for free and giving free players a bit better. So that's a definite thing to take note here. You're getting more for being a free player because you're getting this twice. You get 60 levels versus the 110s. You get 200 coins per half season. So that's 400 for what it would be now. 7 packs, and then the skin stuff. And then the premium versus premium plus stuff, you know, that's where the biggest changes are likely going to be at, and seeing the difference. So, because you're paying for it twice a season, basically every half season. But
yeah, I mean, maybe make the argument that your rewards aren't good enough for the price now.
Yeah, the value's not there.
Instead of saying like the value's not there or something like that, because like telling me that I'm going to get, ooh, look, we get more Apex packs. Nice. That's sick. I was really looking forward to those.
You
like,
remember
Nick,
ahead. You remember a couple weeks ago, the hacker who was just giving away like 500 Apex packs to random people?
Yeah.
It means nothing when that can happen.
Yeah, you could open them all. Like, I love that. Like, all the people were worried, like, oh my God, am I going to get reported? Like, no, he gave you the packs. He's the hacker. You could open all those bad boys.
100%, man.
But yeah, the value just doesn't look like it's there, honestly. And I don't really know what a reactive
so you can get your next
weapon
mod
is.
achievement way faster. First
Hold
one
on
we're
a
going to
second.
talk about today is the Dark Water Skate.
I had to switch my earbuds.
No problem. Talk about it, skate.
Talking about WoW.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but you know, it doesn't. You still get the the legendary weapon skins and stuff like that. I know that they're cool and stuff like that, but like, you know, I'm sure a lot of the best players like choose like some of the most basic stuff. Like,
yeah,
you know
default.
what I mean? Like
low settings, default, everything.
Like, speaking the fake, like, because these are all bad skins, right? And we had the debacle with the whole Faker skin that people complained about. Like, Faker doesn't use a skin. Just so we're clear. Like, when
did he have to buy it? Did he?
No, he has all of them unlocked for free. Every skin. He plays with no skins. Like, the best player in the world in League of Legends doesn't play with a skin. So, like, if you want one, go ahead. But, like, dude, I don't know, man. I'm like, again, I'd be so much more negative on this if the game sucked. If the game sucked, I'd be like, yo, you're not getting anything without spending money. So like, yeah, this is a good complaint, but like I think Apex is one of the best like games out there as far as shooters. Like the way like the game has upgraded itself, it's done things for quality of life for over the course of its lifetime. Like it's done a lot for the player base just in general to make the game better and good, and it's a solid game that you
Yeah,
don't have to pay for.
and I think that's also why this one hits and hurts a little bit much, because you'll have other games and stuff complaining about their battle passes and monetization paths, and then you have like an Apex or an EA doing this to them like that. So like, in retrospect, the other ones don't look as bad, but it's the same idea. But speaking about that quality of life that you're talking about, that is a great sort of way to pivot us into our last topic, and might arguably be the biggest one here, dealing with Apex, because what you're seeing is essentially a difference in power level from people who use controllers to versus people who use mouse and keyboard. So this came out a couple weeks ago on the Reddit Apex Legends, and I'm gonna bring it up real quick. Life is Bad Clothing posted it. I think they're the ones who designed it, or if they're reposting it. But basically, they did a number study showing that the performance of accuracy and I guess standings at the end of a match for Apex Legends, statistically, analytically, was rated way higher on controller with auto aim and magnet aim than it was on mouse and keyboards. And there was a pretty prolonged, detailed report over the last 4 months. So at this point, it'd be 5 months looking at it. Here is the full spreadsheet. We're talking numbers. The math magicians have figured it out. I have showed it. And like, there's some pretty serious and ridiculous some points to me here. So this has been motivated. Let me read this real quick, the comments directly from the person who did the study here. Motivated by how tired I am of the aim assist debate, I decided to crunch numbers from the leaderboard to see the unbiased statistics had to say about input balancing, with approximately 10,000 players analyzed over 4 months, which is a huge sample size and data set. This is the largest analysis of this kind and is the best data we have to perform the analysis, as we do not have access to the data for retail Apex. Okay. The top mouse and keyboard players accuracy-wise are at the bottom of hours played range. As we can see in the graph, as time goes on, there's a clear regression to the mean for mouse and keyboard players. Top mouse and keyboard players who have played at least 100 hours is Future WYD. He played in the last North American placement qualifiers, and he had a 35% accuracy. Future's alt account, somebody's alt, that plays controller, had a 38% accuracy. So already what we're seeing is players who compete at the highest levels with the most, like a good amount of time, not the most time, but a good amount of time, that their accuracy peaking is lower than controller stuff. There are only 4 players from mouse and keyboards in the top 1,000. So you're talking about 0.4% of players that use mouse and keyboard in the top 1,000 range here. So that's, and then the top 4% of mouse and keyboard players, average accuracy is the average for the entire population. So if you're using mouse and keyboard, if you're the top of that game with mouse and keyboard, this report is saying that that is the average of the regular Joe Schmo controller player with the auto aim. Wild, man. And the last bullet point they have here, before I get your thoughts quickly, Nick, is the 10,000 players are made up of 6,000 mouse and keyboard players and 4,000 controller players. So that's your sample size and where it's separated. It's not quite 50-50, but it's near 50-50. But that's wild, man. Like 0.4% of players that use mouse and keyboard are on the top 1,000, and 4% of mouse and keyboard players average the normal controller accuracy. What are your thoughts here, man?
couple thoughts, right? Like, it's no wonder that it always felt better to play it on the Xbox than it did on PC. I was like a PC gamer, right? I felt that same way about a couple other games, but like, what's the like? It's always been a weird debate for me. Like, what's the debate here? One person doesn't have cheat codes on, like, in general. One person just doesn't like. If the argument is one person plays with mouse and keyboard and the other plays with controller with cheat codes enabled, like, the argument sounds stupid and falls apart, right? Like,
right, but
aim
when they
assist.
compete against each other, that's where the problem. If they're competing by themselves, like, controller versus controller, that's not really, everyone's got a superpower, so it doesn't matter. But if I'm competing against somebody who doesn't have that,
Yeah,
that's where I wanted clarity on yours.
It was never there to begin with. If you're using different things, it's never there. It's the reason why the games like Street Fighter have to change when more players are using hitbox than they are controller or, mouse and keyboard or something like that, right? Like, it's the reason why the game has to change, and it should be changing towards the, not really in this sense like the controller, because the controller's not enabling anything better for the game or more unique. They're just saying the controller is worse than keyboard and mouse, so we had to make some adjustments on the back end in order for you to play at a level, and we can't tune it properly, so you play at a higher level on an average basis when you're drunk compared to a person playing on mouse and keyboard. Like, so like,
Yeah, man.
It's a proper complaint.
I think that's some good points with that, where it's like the tuning of this feature is overtuned for controllers, where you're getting the average player base on controller is performing at the top 4% of mouse and keyboard players. That's wild. That, but there should be different controllers, right? There should be accessibility, and people should use what they want to use to play a game, to compete in a thing. And like, that's part of all of it, especially with fighting games. People were building their own boards, right? And now Hitbox has their own standard one because you have the inputs not from a joystick, but from the buttons, and you can do kind of cool different things. You're not going to get that really here. And this becomes like a developer issue, like you said, and that's where the problems come. Definitely not. Absolutely not.
I think every single keyboard and mouse player should be compensated, honestly, with something for free for this game. Like, give them some Apex points or something, or some packs, because like as soon as the reason why the aim assist was put there in the first place was because controller players complained that they couldn't play at the same level as a mouse and keyboard person because their chosen input device wasn't as good as the intended input device, right? Like, this game,
and that's
like,
also chosen play system, right? I think it's a clunky way of saying it, but also they're choosing to play on Xbox. Maybe that's the only place that they can play it. But
100%, right? But
still,
if you want to go to a Street Fighter tournament with a Guitar Hero guitar and play in that tournament, that is your choice, and you can do that. But get good.
Get good, son. Get good.
Like, that's your choice, right? Right? You can't complain about the choice that you made, like. And also, bad thing for Xbox, I think they removed like the functionality of like the keyboard and mouse stuff for other like shooters in like their firmware and stuff like that. So like,
I'm not entirely sure. I know Overwatch was trying to tackle that for zimming, and like, I think zimming happens in a lot of ways. They use mouse and keyboard, but utilize the auto aim plus the mouse and keyboard kind of shit. I'm not sure if Microsoft got rid of that. I know there was a big push for accessibility controllers for handicap and just special needs, and like, all the different sort of disability stuff. They're diversifying the inputs for that. So I don't know if that was a byproduct of that change or if it's just not true. But clearly here, Apex has chosen to sugarcoat it for you controller babies. A little bit of a salt thrown there, but I'm going to catch flack for sure in the comments. A little bit of a sugar coating for the players who use controllers. And like, a little bit justified, but like the rate it's working at is absolutely not justified. For there to be a 38% accuracy rate compared to one of the best players only having 35 on mouse and keyboard, that is That's miles.
That's him.
Alt. Yeah.
That's nobody knowing who he is and like him being able to play the game on his alt account, and him just playing on controller without anybody knowing who he is. It's literally almost a 4% like increase, right? Like
there's no reason that
over 3.
You're right. Sorry. Thank you for correcting me. There's no reason that the same person should have different accuracy rates at that well. And like, of course, yes, mechanically they are different, but like in a true balanced world that a lot of people complain about, that should be the same accuracy rate. And it's not. It is absolutely not.
And split the top 100, split the top 1,000 players. Like there should be a leaderboard for people who play on the different inputs. Because again, like having accurate aim assist on is something that's enabled, whereas the other person doesn't have that enabled, right? And there's no argument you could really make to justify why they don't have it, right? Just that controller is harder to play with for a shooter or a game compared to playing on mouse and keyboard. It's not really a good argument. You have the choice to play on mouse and keyboard. So separate them, and then people it's going to feel bad, but no, the top 10 controller players are not as good as the top 10 mouse and keyboard players based on numbers. I don't know them personally. I'm not naming anybody, but based on these numbers alone and just having a cheat code enabled, you're not as good. So your bragging rights go down. You know what I mean? Shut up, you play on controller is an argument that the number one player on mouse and keyboard can make if you bring up accuracy, if you bring up how good you are, just in general.
Right. So real quick, the counterpoint to this might be, well, isn't mouse and keyboard a superpower because you control it differently with a mouse and a keyboard? It's not aim assist. Aim assist is a superpower, but wouldn't that be a similar superpower? You can move quicker, you can aim quicker, you could so you're not traversing the world quicker, but you are turning and pivoting quicker because you're able to move the mouse quicker than the joystick on it. But I think that's also I'm going to solve my own question, answer here, my own argument here. It's you're talking about physical capacity, not developer code. Aim assist is developer code that these controllers are relying on, which again becomes problematic because it's developer issues. Developer issues wanting to make you feel good about your experience and feel comparable to keep up in these games when they should just make a better game.
Yeah, I mean, the developers could be honest and say you're right to the player who says it feels worse to play on this and play this game on controller than it does compared to the people on keyboard and mouse. I don't feel as good. I'm as good as they are, right? Because I'm playing on keyboard, and the developer can go, yeah, because I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but the keyboard and mouse happened before the dual stick controller. So with games. So I don't want to be a dick here and say that maybe you just downgraded in the wrong sense of being your family entertainment system of your Nintendo Xbox. And
let's use motion control.
Right? I'm just throwing it out there. It sounds like the controller was a downgrade, right? Just in general. And it's
at the very best,
kind of a downgrade.
At the very best, it was a side grade. At the very best. And also with that, it's players, it's not slamming their game sense and their strategy and their tactic, but it's slamming their mechanical controls, that you're basically using something that magnets you to these people in these places. And the numbers are just stating that overall. So how is that competitive integrity when they play against each other? How is that competitive integrity when somebody's going to say they're good? You're not good because you're playing with bumpers on the side of the bowling alley. Oh, you got 300, you hit all strikes, you have bumpers on the side. It's only going to go that way.
Yeah, think about if you didn't have aim assist and you had a 38% accuracy on controller, right? You could legitimately say you're the best player at this game as far as accuracy is concerned. You know what I mean? That would be cool. But instead, you're trying to, what are we going to say? You're trying to pub stomp some noobs with your auto assist, your aim assist on. And that's the feeling you want. And it's awesome. This is the reason why these players, this is made, right? to give these players who are going into games, and in order to combine the player bases. And maybe it's totally okay to not have your game play on every single platform. I don't think it's fair to put Switch people up against anyone with a keyboard and mouse or even an Xbox controller playing Overwatch 2. Okay? Like, you can play it on Switch. Should you? No.
Probably
No.
not. I don't even think it's
No.
that great of an experience on the Switch. Like, it's just novelty and it's just exposure so that they can get more monthly active users or downloads, basically.
Dude, these hardwares are, like, they're great. They're awesome systems, but, like, not every game needs to be played on every platform, just in general. Like, maybe if you want to play the game that you love and you want to play it competitively, maybe you should play it like a majority of the players.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to saying. Like, I think that nuance of the asterisk there is competitively. If you're looking for competitive integrity, if you want competitive, if this is just like Hello Kitty Roundup, the second time I mentioned this game, we could play it casually on all systems, cross play, and be completely fine. But the second that there's like a leaderboard or a competition, like the nature of battle royales is that somebody is first place and somebody is last place. And if that's going to be in your game, then there's competitive integrity needed. Like, that's plain and simple.
Yeah, I think like personally, if I lost to if I was like second place in like a tournament and I lost to like a person playing controller versus like me playing keyboard and mouse, I would personally be pretty pissed and think that I was kind of cheated out of first place, and like they have an argument for it just in general. So like,
Right. And actually, this is an article, data that's like talking about the top accuracy, and some of the comments off the initial, Reddit and Twitter are known for the I say this sarcastically, they're excellent comments. It's kind of hit or miss with some communities in Reddit, but seem pretty solid. They bring up a good point. They imagine that the discrepancy would probably get even worse at lower skill levels. Right? The magnet is going to be more impactful on controller at the lower bronze or metal sort of ranks versus Predator, the top rank, whereas you can like compensate. It's going to be closer, but like still the data proved that at the top level, there's still a 4% difference nearly of this one player from mouse and keyboard to controller. And at the top 4 mouse and keyboard players are in the top 1,000 of accuracy. So like you've got 996 players using controller that have the top accuracies at the top level. I can only imagine if you looked at the bottom levels, mouse and keyboard is probably sitting at 5%, whereas that controller is probably still sitting at like 20-30%. And like that's a valid point from these comments down here, where that discrepancy at the low levels probably make it even more unbearable.
bro, this is the craziest stat on this whole thing. The 400 players, okay? Let's just like say like 400 players for mouse and keyboard, 400 of them is the entire 4,000 player base of controller players. Like if we just take these numbers alone, 6K and 4K with the top 4%. Think about that.
That's wild.
That's very silly. That's very silly.
That's this one that you're talking about right here. Yeah.
The average accuracy for the entire controller player population is equal to the 400 top players with just these numbers. Like I'm sure there's more players, right? But if we just use these numbers, like, because obviously the controller players, that's going to exponentially grow with how many, like if they have 18 million active monthly players, right? Like we could do the math. Like if we find out how much of that 18 million is keyboard players, but that is crazy.
Yes.
The delta on 400 versus 4,000, 3,600 players, like it's insanity. Yeah.
Tenfold, dude.
So like, I don't know.
So okay, I got this point. We're highlighting, and I think it's plain to see. I think anybody could like see how much of a competitive deficit this is at. What would you like to see changed? You as a viewer, if you're watching this, what would you like to see change? If you see this and you're like, oh, this is not a problem, open your eyes, man. Like we have numbers. We've got over 10,000 statistics over players over 4 months showing that you're wrong. But if you do think this is happening, how has it felt in your games? What do you think that the developers can do about this? What do you think should be done about this? And that's a question for everybody out there. Leave a comment, let us know, send us social media, tweet us, thread us, TikTok us, all of those things. We'd love to see it. But Nick, directly right now, what do you want to see change? How do you want to see the developers change this? If you want, I can go first, but I do want to hear what you have to say.
I mean, like the simplest answer, right? There's only two simple answers would be to like get rid of the aim assist, right? Or put aim assist onto mouse and keyboard to increase them up to the average of the controller players, right? But what does that do? It means the top players that are on mouse and keyboard now got cheat codes enabled, right? And so like that top 4% that's equal to the whole entire player base now, maybe they just start pub stomping everybody and now they're out of control, right? But maybe just make the game plain and let's all play, chess instead of trying to play like checkers versus chess with the controller versus the keyboard. Just make the game, choose whatever input you want to use and get good using your input and don't complain about other people. Like, stop watching people's pockets is what I'll say. Like, stop watching their pockets, bro. It's not about the other players. It's about you.
It is about, yeah. Exactly. So I think I agree with that. I think another tool they could do, but I don't really trust them, is you can tune down the magnet on the auto aim on controllers. I don't think that's a great solution, but it is probably the first thing and the simplest thing they can do. They're clearly choosing not to. They clearly have put it there to make controller players feel better overall on average. When you have, like you said, a delta like that, when 400 top mouse and keyboard players are equal to 4,000, the total sample size of controller players, that's messed up. And that's something that the game is doing on purpose. It is working as intended. So the first thing they could do is change that. But I still don't trust that. I don't think that's a complete solution. I think the second solution is get controllers off of competitive play versus mouse and keyboard. Separate them. It's fine if you're doing quick play, you're doing like fun modes, but I'm pretty sure, right, Nick? I think they compete. I think you can go mouse and keyboard versus a controller versus a Switch, all in the same ranked match. I just Googled it. I think that's correct.
I mean, so I would never say like really like taking away anything would actually be beneficial to anybody. Like I know they could just turn it off, or like lower or something like that. But how long has it been in effect? And if it's for too long, essentially, aren't you just changing like behaviors? Like you're ruining behaviors that have already been developed in the game, and you'll probably end up like losing a portion of your player base because it doesn't feel like their game anymore, right? So you're probably gonna have to like. Go ahead. Sorry,
truthfully, if I can jump in real quick, the same could be said about the battle pass changes as well, and like maybe not to the same extent because it doesn't impact the gameplay as much. It kind of does with like character releases, perhaps, but you're talking about you're curating a player behavior and then you're changing that player behavior drastically quickly. So I just wanted to add that point to that because it is relevant to the other aspect. And maybe this is a continual problem with Apex, the developers, or maybe, what is it, Tencent above them, making decisions, the stockholder gods kind of stuff. Maybe that's just a consistent thread that, we're uncovering here.
I mean, here's a thought, like just to speak on that, right? Like, here's a thought. Maybe skins are actively a detriment to competitive gameplay. Just like because like not every skin, some skins, like for example in League of Legends, like certain auto attack animations are ruined and the characters are actively worse in competitive play for their skin, where those skins could get banned. Or on the opposite end, maybe the skin is too good and it makes the animations a little bit faster.
Right.
Which changes the way the character
plays
and stuff like that.
There are some skins that change the sounds, and sometimes that sounds are a negative deficit to you and people hear you coming, or it's a positive because you're silent. You're moving silent like G's in lasagna, right? To quote Lil Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, like, would people, because this is ultimately, I would assume like a lot of these players like do play ranked that are complaining,
Yeah.
right? And if that's the
Kind of
case,
rightfully
maybe,
so.
like maybe just removing any skins or anything that isn't like base level gameplay from the competitive aspect of it might change the way players feel about like the battle pass. But that would also probably lower the amount of money that people spend on battle passes, which probably wouldn't be a good, psychologically they probably have somebody in the office that's telling them, yeah, we're not going to do that because
Absolutely.
we're going to lose
Absolutely.
money, right?
As somebody who used to work at an online casino, there's absolutely people who are sitting there thinking about those things, and like they are calculating the risk reward and the loss profit kind of stuff. But like a mindset I always pushed when I was working there was that you can squeeze a blood for stone right now. Let's say I'm still working at the casino. I could take you for $5,000 right now. Great. But like, I'm going to make more money from you if you stay around for 5 years, even if it's only $50 a month. That's going to eventually be more than the $5,000 in one day. So like, that's the other argument to that idea of like, you've got somebody in the back end going, let's push them. And of course that person's probably pushing people as far as they can go to try to spend as much money as possible to make profits. But yeah.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks. You squeeze blood for stone. Like is what you said, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Isaiah. Squeeze the stone for blood.
Yeah, it's all good. It still was funny.
I think it's kind of showing that I'm sweating. The sweaty gamers are hitting their peak. They're hitting their cap here. I'll speak for myself. It probably isn't just me though. Maybe it's somebody out there. But that's kind of it. As we wrap up, Nick, I think it's a good point in time. Do you have any final thoughts on the topics? What are you looking forward to at the Esports World Cup this coming week? What do you want to see Apex change with the Battle Pass and the controller stuff? I know we just talked about that, but just wrap it up with a pretty bow for me.
Hitbox, make a new Apex controller. That is part keyboard, part controller.
Yes.
So the game gets confused. Let's have Hitbox do something there. And as far as like esports, I'm really just excited to see which orgs are just going to bump up and see how high they can climb. That's really like what I'm looking for, because I think that's the most probably the most important thing is like how the notoriety from just being one of these top orgs in the Esports World Cup will help going forward. Like getting more money into esports, getting more players into esports, stuff like that.
Right. And I think talking today with the Esports World Cup, seeing how that's going to unfold in the next couple of years, how it's going to unfold with the Olympics potentially, how they're going to develop systems or strategies for that, has got me excited. But I'm definitely excited to see how that, what do they call it? The club championship points, how the clubs are going to like play out. And I think I'm more excited about that than some of those games that are being played. Like, I don't know if I really care about PUBG Mobile. I'm sure somebody out there does, and we're going to cover the topic, of course. But like, I think I'm more jazzed about seeing how the club championship points add up from each competition than I am watching PUBG Mobile play out in the tournament overall. But, that's me. We'd love to hear from you as well. Nick, thanks for joining me and having a spirited conversation today. It was a lot of fun and a lot of big topic. We're glad we finally got to talking about this Apex problem. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of things to say about it, but we definitely got to add our point of view on it. Anything to send us off on, man?
Nah, I don't hear these. I don't hear these mobile players complaining about keyboard and mouse though. Like,
right. Or controllers, dude, or controllers.
Yeah, but that's it. That's all I got.
All right, well, thanks for contributing, man. Thanks for joining us here on the Esports Meta Podcast. We're live here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can check out all the rest of our videos on our YouTube channel. If you didn't know, go subscribe. It's for free. You love it. And if you watch this stuff, leave us a like because it helps the algorithm tell people about us. Gets the videos out there to more people. But if social media is also more your vibe, you're more chill on that stuff, well, guess what? We're on there too. TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and kind of Twitter. But, whatever you want to do is cool with us. We're glad you're here. Come check us out next week. We'd love to have you. Let us know your thoughts on the esport topics and North American video game news. But that's been it for us today. I'm running out of words and running out of steam. Thanks for joining us, Nick. Thanks for joining us and hanging out with me. I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
guys.